Aemeath has been revealed. Let's talk about her. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. Happy New Year, everyone! It is now the new year, and I just quickly want to say Happy 2026, and I hope you are having a wonderful January 1st, and a wonderful New Year's Day, and if you're watching this video any later, then I hope you're having a wonderful January in general. However, we have gotten the reveal of Aemeath today, and that is what I am here to talk about, because goodness me, I am quite surprised that they're already releasing this character. I expected them to hold on to this character for quite a while before deciding to release her, because she clearly got quite a lot of focus in the marketing. She wasn't revealed in the initial cast of Lahairoi characters, so we weren't actually aware of this character's existence until a little bit later, when Kuro Games posted a trailer that primarily focused on her. It also seemed to hint at some interesting details about her. For example, in that marketing trailer, she didn't actually cast a shadow wherever she went, meaning that she may have not actually had a real physical form, things like that. And this character has subtly been teased here and there in different types of trailers, marketing, etc. And story spoilers, it literally is the first thing that happens, but I'm going to say story spoilers anyway. In 3, 2, 1, okay. We briefly meet her at the very start of the Lahairoi storyline. She approaches us, wishes us a safe journey, and then leaves. So they're clearly hinting at something big with this character, and I wasn't expecting this to be a 3.1 release. Mind you, because she is the first drip market that has come out, she is going to be in the first half, meaning that we're going to be getting her very, very soon. Or at least a lot sooner than I was expecting for this type of character. I will say it's very exciting that we're getting her so soon, but I suppose the reason that I'm quite surprised by this is that it took us a while to get Cardathea, and I believe that Aemeath is a very important character to Lahairoi lore. Now, it's not the first time. We did get Jinchi, a Sentinel Resonator, in 1.1, but that was back when the game came out. And usually a big release coming out not long after a game launches isn't really too atypical for a gacha game, at least in my experience, so that wasn't too strange to me. But then we got Cardathea releasing halfway through Rinascida's life cycle, so I was thinking, okay, it's likely that we're always going to have to wait around halfway, or at least a little bit longer, in order to get future Sentinel Resonators. And we don't know if Aemeath is a Sentinel Resonator or not. She might not be. I don't exactly know what her importance is, but I kind of have the feeling that she is going to be at least a little bit more important than the average character, hence why I'm surprised that she's already been revealed. And another thing that I would like to point out, now generally I don't think Wuthering Waves has that many characters that are references to PGR characters. I play PGR, I think PGR has an absolutely fantastic story, and this is me just quickly saying, you should play PGR if you don't, or at least give it a shot. It's an amazing game. The first few chapters are rough, but once you get beyond that, it is an amazing story. Aemeath is very similarly designed to a character called Nanami, specifically her Star Trail frame, and essentially, Nanami is a very important character to PGR's lore. I'm not going to say any spoilers, but anybody who's played PGR knows that this character looking like Nanami is a little bit suspicious. It definitely implies that there is something a little bit more going on here, and I don't really think that they would make a character look like Nanami if there wasn't something deeper going on here. Also, I believe that the goddess character at the start of Wuthering Waves resembles Lucia, and I think that most people that have played PGR would also agree with that sentiment. So, it is clear that Wuthering Waves has some PGR references. It definitely doesn't have a whole lot, though it does have some. I know that Kalcharo doesn't really appear in the main story much. I think he was there once in 2.7 and that was it, but his lore does kind of remind me of Watanabe's, for instance. I do think that there are some characters that are at least a little bit reminiscent of PGR units, and I would say that Aemeath is definitely the most reminiscent, and I find that very exciting because I personally really like PGR. I think it's a fantastic game, and I think Nanami is a fantastic character. So this is very interesting. As for the art itself, well, obviously it looks absolutely incredible. She seems to be caressing a mech of some kind. I don't really know what's going on there. I'm not really sure what to expect with this. It's probably related to her story or lore in some way. There is a Nanami frame that uses a mech, but this specific design seems to reference Star Trail more than it does that frame, so I'm not really sure what's going on there. But even if we separate it from PGR here, let's just look at Aemeath as her own character, because who knows, maybe it's just a very, very big coincidence. But that aside, I think if we just look at this as it is, it's very interesting. I can see that the mech seems to have that same heart symbol that Aemeath has on her chest. It's a little hard to see because it's a bit small, but she does have it there. and I find that quite interesting. The art itself is obviously incredible. I think that wuwa's artwork has definitely improved over time, and this just looks absolutely amazing. I feel like it doesn't need to be said that this looks really good, because you can just look at this and see, wow, that is some absolutely gorgeous splash art. I really like what I'm looking at here. It looks absolutely gorgeous. And as for the character of Aemeath herself, I'm excited for her. I think she looks really cool. I like her design a lot. I like the pink hair. And all around, I am very interested in the fact that she looks like Nanami. That's intriguing me. Now, I am skeptical as to how she's going to be handled story-wise. As of posting this video, we have not gotten the Mornier quest yet, and I believe we won't be getting it for at least a little bit around 2 weeks. And I do hope that there is at least a little bit of setup for this character. They have teased her quite a lot, and they have shown her off in trailers and such, but I hope that in-game, we actually get some good setup for her story arc, and whatever it is that she's going to be doing with us. Kuro Games has now confirmed that she is in fact a ghost of sorts, or a character that doesn't really have a physical form, or at least cannot appear to other people. So I think there is something interesting that they can do here, and I'm really excited to see what type of story we're going to tell here. I just hope that it's done well. There is potential for this to be a very interesting and exciting character, so I am interested. I am wondering if this mech represents anyone, or if it's like a part of her, or something like that. I don't really know what to expect, because I have never really seen anything like this. I'm guessing that it's going to have some involvement in her gameplay. I would be surprised if not, because otherwise I don't really know why they would tease it here. Usually whenever they tease these sort of specimens or entities within splash arts, they do actually end up being a part of the unit's gameplay. A good example of this would be the giant eagle creature that was behind Augusta in her drip marketing, and that did actually end up having a small part in her gameplay. Now, because this is such a central focus here, I'm expecting it to be a little bit bigger of a part of her gameplay, and in terms of what she's going to do, obviously, officially, we don't know yet, but at least unlike 3.0, where I genuinely was not able to come up with anything because there was just no information on what 3.0's gimmick was going to be, and we just had zero clue as to what Kuro Games was going to do next, we at least can make some guesses here based on what we've already gotten. I do think that she is going to have something to do with Tomb Break. It is pretty clear that she is a focal point of this region, or at the very least of the current story, and I do think that she is likely to complete the Tomb Break team. I don't think that Kuro Games would release another support. We have had 2 support patches in a row at this point, one with Chisa and Nova 5-star releasing in the second half of the patch, and then we had both Mornier and Linny. Now, Mornier is yet to release as of the posting of this video, however, it does appear as if she is going to play as a support unit, at least based on what Kuro Games has officially revealed. So, with that in mind, I do think that we are overdue for a DPS unit, as Kuro Games has broken their usual pattern of 1 DPS and 1 sub-DPS / support per patch, and I do think it is high time that we get a DPS. I believe that Kuro Games just wanted to release the Tomb Break core first, before giving us our first actual Tomb Break DPS, and I believe that Aemeath is going to be that DPS. Now, how she is going to respond to Tomb Break, I don't particularly know. I don't know if she's going to trigger Tomb Break and that's going to be the majority of her damage output, and I don't know if that's not going to be the case and she's going to trigger Tomb Break and that's more so going to give her buffs related to her main source of damage output. I would assume that there's going to be something to do with Resonance Liberation considering Linny's outro skill, but I don't particularly know. That character is very universal in general, so she could be something different entirely, and I am very curious if perhaps she's going to trigger Tomb Breaks more often, or if she's just going to make Tomb Breaks more powerful. I don't really know, but I am expecting something to do with Tomb Break here. I don't think that she's gonna do anything with negative status. The reason that I say this is because Chisa was a pretty recent release that came out in 2.8, and I'm sure that Chisa fans are still waiting for a new negative status unit in order to give their Chisa a brand new use case in which the character was designed with Chisa in mind. However, I do not think that Aemeath is going to be this unit. I believe that a focal point of a brand new region is likely to focus on that region's gimmick. Consider that Cardathia was a negative status unit, which makes sense considering that Renacita was a region in which negative statuses were introduced. So I have my doubts. But I do believe that Aemeath is probably going to be a very good unit, though that's a bit of a grass is green statement because Kuro Games seldom ever releases characters that just aren't very good unless they're a third slot teammate like Roshia or Chisa, but ends up being somewhat underwhelming. But for the most part, at least with main DPS releases, they tend to be very good. I don't think she would be a sub DPS. Maybe she could be, I can't really rule it out, because drip marketing alone doesn't really tell us much. I'm more so just going off of what we currently have in-game, and I would say that these are logical assumptions because now we actually know what 3.x is all about, and now we know what the Tomb Break core is like, or we at least know what Linny is like, and we are soon eventually going to be getting Mornier, and I'm sure that whenever she releases, she is probably also going to be very strong too. So I believe this is going to be completing that core. As for whether she is going to require Linny, that is my main concern. I really hope that's not going to be the case, and I hope that she is not going to require the Tomb Break units in order to be functional, because I do not want a negative status part 2 here. I really want to see them do something interesting with Tomb Break that does not involve them making Linny an absolute requirement. Obviously, that is an amazing character to pull for, she is very high value, and most people should have been getting her anyway if they care about meta. However, if they don't care about meta and they skip Linny but they really like Aemeath, I just hope that everyone's going to be satisfied by the end. Otherwise, very cool character, and I'm hoping to pull for her myself. I am an Aemeath fan, and I am also an Aemeath fan. Hopefully this video was able to tell you my thoughts on Aemeath now that we've had her revealed. This has been Juice, signing out, and my goodness, making Nanami pink was a great decision, Kuro. She looks awesome.